Great days and glorious victory. My name is Spifflemonk, and the camera turns on, showing a most spiffingly dressed Spiffle wearing a top hat, overcoat, and a monocle covering his left eye. To top off the ensemble, he is sitting in a large, fancy couch, with a very fancy-looking selection of teacups, a pot in a tea cozy, and a selection of biscuits on a side plate, sitting on a fancy-looking table. Welcome to my Let's Play. Today, as you can probably guess, we have the famed and acclaimed factory building game Tea Empire Simulator. The game screen starts, showing the logo for various tea companies such as Rooibos and Yorkshire Tea, followed by the game logo, which is a fancy-looking teacup. The menu starts, showing that it's a satisfactory-type game with first-person perspective and large open fields to build in. I was told that wearing this outfit and carrying these lovely tea things is the only true way to play this game. Like a true gentleman, apparently, I like this. It feels right. Anyway, let's get started. Spiff starts a new game and is thrust straight into the game, and who better to introduce him to a game about tea than the spiffing Brit himself, playing as voice for the game's narrator. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the greatest game to ever be made in the history of games, Tea Empire Simulator. Yes, the game where you get to play as the most powerful empire that ever lived and make the greatest beverage ever made by man, tea. Before I introduce you to the game and let you get started, I am going to lock your controls and force you to listen to me for a few moments, as I thank Coffee Stain Studios, Yorkshire Tea, and Rooibos Tea for sponsoring and making this game. Spifflemonk stays still and listens to the voice of an extremely dapper chap and smiles as he, in a very gentlemanly way, takes a sip of tea. In any case, I shall not keep you any longer. You will be forced to take a quick tutorial so you can understand the basics of the game and get started making glorious tea. The game starts, and Spifflemonk reluctantly puts his teacup down and quickly finishes the tutorial. The game starts simply through wandering around, collecting bushes for fuel, digging ore for materials such as copper, iron, and stone. Spiff, getting used to how human building games are now, quickly gathers up some resources, setting up basic production facilities for some needed materials for expansion. This is quite nice. No enemies, no warriors, no giant bugs. I like it. Now, I have the basics done. How do I start making tea? A research console. Now let's see what... Aha! Spiff finds the central console in his base of operations and opens up the tech tree, similar in design to Factorio's tech system. The only difference is, it uses tea as its science resource. Just like Factorio, I need to make science, using various blends or makes of tea. Need to use some copper plates, copper cables, and iron to unlock basic greenhousing, and then I will be given my first batch of tea seeds. Spiffle goes through the motions of building assemblers and smelters in various spots, filtering everything to a central point with belts, and into cargo containers for later use, just like a main bus. He gathers the necessary components in short order and unlocks the first tier of tea making, white tea. So according to this, there are 5 basic types of tea: white, green, oolong, black, and pu'er tea, plus some flavor and blend-specific teas, and along with that, some branded teas. This is a lot more complicated than I expected. Spiff looks at the empty cup in his hand and shrugs, resuming his game with gusto as he builds the first tier of greenhouse. After manually setting up some power to it and connecting a weak water pump to fuel it, the first batch of tea leaves is produced. Yes, tea. Lovely. Now to actually process it. Now let's see what good God. 7 different types of blender for this. This is a lot more complicated than I expected. Well, here we go then. Spiff begins the laborious process of setting up a new factory floor for processing the new tea. He sets up a few more greenhouses once he gets more seeds and starts mass-producing tea leaves. The first line he sets up is made for the basic white tea. Right, this is complicated. The basic tea requires a sorter, which sorts out the tea leaves by quality and type, then has to go through a withering machine to age the tea leaves out. After that, it goes through an oxidizer to reinvigorate them for flavor. then a heater to bring out the flavor, apparently. Then it goes through a dryer machine to dry them out completely. Then they have to go through a crusher to crush or roll them into various sizes for use. After that, I have to package them and poof, tea science. Spiffle enthusiastically engages and gets to work, building the first production line of many, all being fed with other machines mining ores. Now apparently this also requires other resources like iron and copper for maintenance, so I guess it's a good thing I set that up already. Now belt splitter here, into maintenance hatch here. Spiffle goes through the motions of factory building, and after an hour of work, the first batch of tea science appears from the end of the assembly line. Spiff looks at it. It's a group of 8 large jars, full of freshly brewed tea. Oh, look! It even has steam coming from it. I can almost smell the tea. Right now, I need to pipe this into a device called a space elevator and then send it up for delivery. Let's see. Batches of 80. What are the other tea types for, then? Spiffle looks at research screens and UI menus for some answers. Oh, I see. That's how it works. The 5 basic teas offer 1 point for each jar, which means 8 per patch and 80 per unit sent up the elevator. The blenders and extra processors are used to make Darjeeling, Yorkshire, Ceylon, and other blends, which give more tea science. 10 points of research per jar, apparently. The brand blends, though, give 50 points of research per batch of 8 jars. Good lord, I need to do that then. Spiffle immediately gets to work but has to stop midway through building MR greenhouses. He gets a bit frustrated as his normal resources such as iron and glass have slowed. He goes on the hunt for new resource nodes and encounters an enemy in the game, an American dressed in colonial pre-Revolutionary War attire, holding a musket. W! What in the God's name is that thing? Spiff can't really do much but stays out of its aggro range. I have seen something like this in a human history book. Was it something about Boston or... The mob spots Spiff, fires his musket, and then charges Spiffle with the bayonet on his rifle. No taxation without representation, it screams as it charges at poor Spiff. I don't have any weapons. No, no, no. Leave me alone. Spiff runs away and tries to lose the mob as it charges him. Spiff takes damage from the musket shot, but thankfully manages to escape the bayonet and retreats back to base. He checks his research tree and finds the weapons. A blunderbuss and a cavalry saber are the 2 weapons available. Blunder, bus, and a sword of some kind. Okay then, let's see. Need 100 tea leaves, 50 iron plates, 50 iron rods, and 10 copper plates. Right, let's do that then. Spiffle quickly gathers up the necessary ingredients and unlocks the tech needed. He hastily makes a blunderbuss and a stack of ammo for it, followed by the saber. He puts them on his tool belt slots and heads to a new location. He finds a rich copper deposit guarded by a mob with a sword. Spiff coases the distance, blunderbuss out and fires a shot, blasting the mob and killing it with a hail of shrapnel. This is a shotgun. A blunderbuss is a shotgun? Well then, that makes me happy. Reloading takes a bit of a long time, though. Spiff spends a bit of time reloading his gun and then secures the area around the deposit. He puts his miner down and starts fitting the belt line to the base. He sets up a smelter array and a stack of assemblers to process the plates, then fits in a line of belts towards the main bus to help throughput. This works wonders, and Spiff gets back to it. He quickly secures a host of 5 medium-quality iron deposits within reasonably close proximity and builds a huge smeltery and belt line back to the main bus again. This massively upgrades his throughput but drastically reduces his power production. He very hastily makes a quick and dirty burner generator system fueled by biomulch and wood, and gets back to work making a new tea line, starting with a dozen new greenhouses and the water pumps needed to sustain them. He gets very giddy as he sets up the lines for more producers, and within an hour manages to unlock the next tier of equipment. Oh, lovely. Let's keep going and see what we unlocked. Oh, coal power, so I now have coal, and solar panels for energy. Oh gee, those are solar modules. Okay. Allows factory components to use less energy during daytime hours. Oh lovely, that will help until I can get coal power up and running. Also, we have unlocked a new weapon, the rifle bore musket, and also backpacks, inventory upgrade. Oh, this will make it easier. and faster belts, slightly more expensive, and I will need to do more factory to mass produce those, but that's okay. Spiffle lets the tea factory just run by itself for a bit and allows his research points to accumulate while he runs around upgrading the factory. He finds and secures a few deposits of stone to build glass and silicates, then uses that to make photovoltaic cells. He upgrades damn near everything to use a solar panel, drastically reducing his power consumption, followed by him securing a coal deposit. Right, coal. Wonder what that is exactly. Need to figure that out. Well, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. It's a fuel source that humanity has used, but I've no idea where it comes from or what it is. I believe it's carbon of some kind. Anyway, let's see, how do I set this up then? Looks like it needs a water connection and a coal input. Wait, is this Steam again? It's just Steam? Spiffle tabs out of the game and quickly checks what's going on. It is indeed just steam being used to generate electricity. Well shit, look at that. Humans and your steam. First the trains, then electricity. I do love trains. Do they have trains in this game? No, no spiff. Calm. Must relax and let the game play out first. Back to it. Let's get this going and fix our power problems. I won't have to manually refuel the generators anymore, hopefully. Spiffle quickly sets up a dirty platform and pump, then 4 coal generators to produce power. He returns to base, and just in case, creates a separate line for coal to the main hub just in case he might need it, adding coal to the main bus. Spiff resumes faffing about, optimizing his greenhouses and makes a lot more of them. He quickly unlocks the next tier of tea and begins making the first batches of Sponsor 1, Rooibos tea. Rooibos. How do I pronounce that? Spiff quickly searches and finds the proper pronunciation. Oh, okay, Rooibos. That's how you say it. Okay, odd. Right then. Strange name. Anyway, let's get going. We need tea. These are called sponsor teas, which provide 50 points per batch of 8. That's very good. The process for making them is, however, downright painful. Let me show you. Spiff walks through the factory. A greenhouse, connected to a groundwater pump, produces stacks of tea leaves as it chugs away. Greenhouse where tea is grown produces its own seeds after the first input, so that's okay. Then it goes into a sorter. The recipe tells me it loses 10% of leaves due to low quality or damage, so it takes a bit to get this. A tea leaf bale. The structure lets out neatly baled cube-shaped bundles of tea leaves, still green and fresh. The bale goes into the next factory building. The withering machine is slightly larger than the previous machines, containing a large glass dome structure in the middle with an indeterminate mechanism. The result is very small bundles of tea leaves in various states of dryness. After it gets aged in this thing, it goes into the oxidizer where it sort of reinvigorates it, bringing out the flavor. Apparently. Gods who knew tea was so hard to make. The oxidizer receives the small bundles of tea leaves, then outputs a loose bundle of leaves evenly across the belt. The heater looks like a large open oven kind of thing with the belts going through the center, past a series of blue glowing heating coils, then into some kind of kiln. The leaves come out and into the next step. Yes, it's that annoying a process, but here we go. The last step in the basic processing, the crusher and dryer. Thankfully, this is a short process. The crusher squishes and mulches everything into this fine tea powder stuff, then goes into the dryer. After the dryer, it's ready. I have some glass piped in here on this belt, so it packages everything and poof, here we go. Jars of fresh tea leaves. This is only basic processing, of course, so no tea as of yet. That's where this thing comes in. The basic brewery. Spiffle stands in front of a very large structure with various chimneys all over it. The finished tea jars go in, and a multi-step process goes on inside one machine. The jars are emptied, cleaned, then put at the end to receive the precious liquid. The tea leaves go in, are secured in tiny baggies, then actually used to make tea. The chimneys use electricity to heat up water, filter it through tea, and then, once properly brewed to a precise standard, brings the tea to the end to be bottled, capped, then shipped to the space elevator. And this is just the basic white tea. I have more lines from that to produce the other base teas, followed by these massive beasts. Spiff runs towards a massive warehouse-sized building that can actually be entered by the player. It's a single self-contained building with a Rooibos logo all over its surfaces. It takes iron, coal, processed tea leaves, and silica. The massive factory facility uses the iron to make lids, the silica for making fresh bottles, and biomass for use in paper for the labels. The factory distills water pumped into it, purifies the water, then filters the tea several times before actually making the tea. The produced tea is then sent to be bottled in special bottles, placed onto pallets, and sent into the elevator. Each pallet is worth 50 research points. This thing was a pain in the ass to build. First I had to get the parts, then I had to get a space cleared out so I could clear it, only to be told it can only be built on foundations. Then I had to pump in so many resources to fuel this thing, and I needed to give it its own power source of 4 coal generators to power it. But look at that. 2,000 science points since starting it. Let's see what we can unlock. Spiff unlocks Tier 3 and gains access to geothermal energy in vehicles, such as a cargo cart, then notices something odd. What's this? Rare tea seeds can now be found in locations across the world. Grab them and process them for massive bonuses to research points, or use them in the new tea shop for tickets to buy new gear, equipment, or blueprints. Oh my. Well, I guess I'm exploring then. Spiff builds a car, a small off-road buggy-type vehicle with Yorkshire tea logos plastered all over it. He hops in and zooms away. A bit too fast, as he collides with a forest. Whoops. This thing is a bit faster than I expected. A lot faster. I need to be more careful. Or learn to drive better. Bloody hell. Wait, can this thing jump? Spiffle approaches a cliffside and charges at it, flying out at high speed, staying airborne for several seconds before coming to an abrupt stop, upside down. It does not seem to dissuade him from it at all, and he finds another cliff to drive off of shortly after. This is so fun. I wonder if there are any car games I can try. Spiff charges across the landscape and jumps off a few more cliffs just because. He quickly discovers the glorious power of vehicular manslaughter and kills a mob with the Jeep in a panic. Spiffle gets that signature look of demon eyes he is so well known for. Destroy! Spiff goes a bit crazy and spends the next hour's worth of gameplay simply finding mobs to perform hit and runs on, wiping out every mob on the map in quick succession. Unfortunately, Spiff goes too far, too fast, and ends up 40 kilometers away from his base with no idea how he got there. Oh dear. How far away? 40 kilometers. Oh no. Oh bugger. What did I come all the way out here for anyway? Oh, that's right. Special tea. Spiff gets back to driving and finds a grove filled with elaborately decorated trees with tiny white flowers around small bushes. Spiff approaches one such bush and gets a new item, Awabansha tea seeds. Awabansha. Unusual name. Must be from an obscure part of the Terran Federation. But anyway, let's see. Codex unlocked? This tea is fermented with lactic acid bacteria on Japan's Shikoku Island and is a pickled tea leaf salad from Myanmar. Traditionally, lefet in Myanmar is consumed as a salad or condiment with a meal. Awabansha, on the other hand, is consumed as a beverage. What makes this tea unusual is its processing methods. Oh my, that's delightful. How much can 3,000 research points a batch? Spiff emits an odd squeaking noise and hops back into the car to try to return home. On the way, he encounters more things to look at and build on. A flat ridge covered in a flower field, bordering a massive canyon. A canyon that Spiff falls into because he's still driving around like an idiot. Oh, bugger! Damn it! Well, that's what I get for not obeying the speed limit, I guess. How deep is this thing? Wait, what's that? Spiff encounters a huge grove of sorts with a large flower in the middle. He grabs it and unlocks the recipes for a sponsor tea, Yorkshire tea. It does, however, take Spiff 2 hours to get out of the canyon. It's a rather large canyon after all, and eventually finds himself back at the hub. Let's see. Yorkshire tea gives 10,000 research points for a batch. If I send it through the tea shop, I think I get, 15,000 cash points for things. Let's build a tea shop and see what it does then. Spiff builds the tea shop, sending a belt line from a cargo container into it. The building looks like a cafe, with a selection of puppet robots performing simplistic animations for display purposes. Spiff goes up to it and looks at the prices. Up to 5,000 cash points for some extra buildings like multi-point power poles, industrial assemblers and overdrive modules, as well as sponsor color palettes and logos. Well, bugger me. For a super-scale tea factory, it is 2 million points. Let's see. Makes any and all kinds of tea in large batches, fast, but has no quality control, so batches will vary in cost on completion depending on the tea. Oh, quality is a thing? Okay then, I need to get one of those fast if I want to get anywhere. One will do, but first, greenhouses for the new teas. Spiff spends the next 2 hours sorting out new production lines to start building basic versions of processing with the new teas. Eventually, he sets up 8 new lines for all 8 of the new tea types, with Yorkshire tea and rooibos being the most complex, requiring a lot of secondary input to make. Eventually, Spiff gets the tea he needs, sends it through the tea shop, and buys the super-scaled factory. He has to move to an entirely new area, the Salt Flats biome, and starts building it, then connecting all the lines from the main bus into it. The factory is enormous, taking up more space than his entire base hub combined. Bloody hell, this thing is enormous. Oh, it requires almost every resource as input, too. Damn it. Right, let's get going then. Spiffle resigns himself to his fate and starts working for the next hour to build up the belt lines to the new factory building. He has to go back, upgrade his power production, and build an entirely new power generator with 26 new coal plants to compensate for the power draw. Eventually, he manages to get things working and handloads a stack of tea leaves from the basic white tea to see what it does. 1 minute later, the first belt line appears. Spiff sends it into a container for now and lets the leaves run through. The result is that he's made 5 batches of tea at 10 times the amount produced by the smaller machines. The problem is, there's 5 qualities of tea: peasant, low, medium, high, and king quality. Spiff hovers over each one and sees the prices and research points. He comes to the conclusion that the super factory is better for mass production, as the king quality is produced at roughly 2 batches for each stack of tea leaves. You know what? I need a break. Tea time! The camera goes blank, then back on again. Spiffle's face cam is replaced full screen by the entire Spifflemonk family sitting around a table. Every member of Spiff's family is wearing a top hat, monocle, fancy gent's jacket, and is holding a teacup with a pinky finger pointing out. Long live the king! They all yell together and drink a nice sip of tea. The camera blacks out, then returns to Spiff's face cam and gameplay. Spiff starts the arduous process of unlocking the next tier of equipment and lets out a very much unmanly squeal of delight as he notices the words, monorail. Trains. He forgets everything else, and a montage begins where he spends 4 hours replacing his entire logistics network with the rail system. Every time he places a train car down, he lets out a squeal of glee that is most ungentlemanly. Eventually, he comes off the train obsession and gets the first batch of Yorkshire tea. The first batch is sent for research points and is used to unlock the next tier of tech, nuclear energy. Nuclear? Shit, humans have nuclear technology? Oh, wait. Yeah, I forget they do. I played Fallout, didn't I? Where the entire game was based around an atomic apocalypse. Spiff shudders in horror and carries on gaming, quickly setting up some reactors to cover his growing power needs. With the extra power, he sets up some more super factories and starts producing the remaining tea items. He uses his now ridiculous train network to facilitate transport of the new factory buildings to the space elevator for use. After the first batch of sponsored Rooibos tea goes in, his screen goes blank. What? Did the game crash or something? The screen is replaced by the spiffing Brit's avatar. Well, hello there, glorious tea engineer. Thank you for completing the tea factory. This message is to inform you that you have beaten the game. Yes, lovely. The entire purpose was to create a factory that produced all of the teas. You can either carry on maximizing production or start a new game on behalf of the great tea empire. So long, and thanks for all the tea. The screen goes back to the game and allows Spiff to continue playing. Spiffle shrugs and carries on, facilitating automated production of all teas. He buys every item, spends some time making things more efficient and neat, then just lets the factory run for a while as he sits back in his comfy chair with a nice cup of Yorkshire Gold.